Good evening, everyone. Bienvenidos esta noche. My name is Viviana Bianchi. I'm the Executive Director of the Bronx Council on the Arts. The Hostos Center for the Arts and Culture and the Bronx Council on the Arts welcome you to this evening's artist talk on Shifting Streams, 12 Artists from the Hudson River. That is the current virtual exhibit in the Longwood Art Gallery at Hostos. You can view the event at either the Hostos Center or Bronx Council on the Arts website. The links are on the chat. Aris Napoles Martes and Wendy Pabuon, along with guest curator Megan Barretto, will discuss the exhibit, their works, and the process behind the art. The evening's moderator is the art historian Anelys Alvarez Munoz. The exhibit and this artist talk are sponsored by the Hostos Community College Foundation with public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs and in collaboration with the Bronx Council on the Arts. I now turn the evening to Anelys, who is a Miami-based art historian who earned her BA and MA degrees in the University of Havana, Cuba. In 2010, she completed a graduate program in museum studies at the Florida International University. Currently serves as the curatorial associate for the Jose M. Perez Art Collection and the related group in Florida. Please join me in welcoming Anelys and our guest panelists tonight.
Thank you, Viviana. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for this conversation between the curator and two of the participant artists of Shifting Streams, 12 artists by the Hudson River. It is a pleasure being here and through the possibilities that this online platform offers so everybody can enjoy this conversation from the comfort of their house. A special thanks, of course, goes to the Hostos Center for the Arts and Culture and to the Bronx Council for the Arts for making this opportunity possible and providing this platform for everybody to enjoy this conversation. And this evening, as Viviana was actually presenting before, we have the pleasure to be in conversation with curator and writer Megan Barretto and two of the artists that are participating in this exhibition, Napoles Marti and Wendy Pabuon. Before we open up to the conversation, I would like to make a brief introduction of each of the panelists. Megan Barretto is a curator and art writer. She's also an adjunct lecturer at the City College of New York. Megan has served as a regional director at Artist Pension Trust, APT, gallery manager at Y Gallery, New York, and studio manager at Los Carpinteros Studio in Madrid and Havana. She has an extensive teaching experience in venues such as Havana University and San Jerónimo College, also in Havana. She has lectured in international institutions such as Universidad Complutense de Madrid and Martin Luther University in Halle, Germany, among many others. Her curatorial practice includes exhibitions for the Gutenberg Arts, New Jersey, Faction Art Projects, New York, Y Gallery, New York, Artisan Galleries at Parson, New York School for Design, and also for many other centers in the United States and in other countries as well. It is a pleasure being in this conversation with you, Megan. We will we'll open up with questions very soon. I'm sure the public wants to hear more about the concepts behind this exhibition. Napoles Marti graduated from the National School of Fine Arts in San Alejandro. He had also been professor of drawing and sculpture at the same institution. His work has been featured in several group exhibitions in institutions such as Limerick City Gallery of Art at Limerick, Casa Ibáñez Museum in Melilla, the European Museum of Modern Art in Barcelona, among others. He has also participated in the International Biennial of Contemporary Emerging Art Eve Maria Zimmerman in Canary Islands. Marti has participated in various residencies such as Gutenberg Arts in New Jersey, Art Residency Isolo 17 Gallery in Verona, all furnished artist residency in Virginia. His work is part of the collection of the European Museum of Modern Art in Barcelona, Spain. Then Yandy Pabuon is a multidisciplinary artist. Welcome, Yandy, to this conversation. It's so good to be in this conversation with you from Miami. I have known Yandy and Ken, haven't had the pleasure to personally know Nápoles Martí before, but it's incredible this opportunity that we now have to be sharing this panel through the online platforms. Yandy is a multidisciplinary artist working in photography, video, and painting. He's a graduate from the National School of Fine Arts in Havana. Pabuon's work has been featured in solo and group exhibitions such as Caribbean Crossroads of the Wall at the Studio Museum of Harlem and also at the Perez Art Museum, Miami, the X-Files Biennial at the Museo del Barrio, the Annenberg Space for Photography as part of the Pacific Time LA, and the USF Contemporary Museum of Art in Tampa. His work is part of the collection of El Museo del Barrio and can also be found in many other private and public collections in Cuba, Mexico, and the United States. Before, with no further ado, I would like to open the floor with the first question that goes to you, Ken. Can you tell us a little bit more about the exhibition, about the concept of the show? What does it bring these artists together? How do you get to know about their practice? How this whole idea of this exhibition came together?
Thank you, Anelys, for your question, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining to this live conversation. I'm glad to be here with two of the artists of the Shifting Streams exhibition and with Anelys as our moderator tonight. So, Anelys, to answer your question, you were asking about Shifting Stream and the concept behind the show. So yes, as it is said on the statement of the exhibition, this show wants to bring together the work of 12 artists that live and work in that area of the near the Hudson River, on the west bank of the Hudson River, in that area of New Jersey that covers the cities of Union City, West New York, and Gothenburg. And in a way, the show it's trying to highlight that phenomenon of a Cuban community of creative in that area, because we not only have these 12 artists, there are much more artistic things happening in that area. We have writers, we have musicians, some other visual artists. So it's the whole community of creative people working there. And in a way, the exhibition tries to highlight this segment of artistic production, of visual production of 12 artists. Fortunately, some of these artists, I know them for a lot of years now. When I lived in Cuba, I knew some of them. And then when I moved here to New Jersey, I got to know the work of the rest of them. In most of the cases, I'm very familiar with their work. I have visited their studios many times. There are artists that have been here for a long time, like more than 20 years, like the case of Yandy. So I met him like 7 years ago when I got here. In the case of Nápoles arrived later, like 2 years ago. So I have been in touch with them at different moments also in my life, but it's interesting to see how there's a group of artists working in this area. Of course, there's no, let's say, they are not unified by their research or the type of work they are doing, but there's a connection here, not only of the traditional and the cultural background of being Cubans, but also there's a connection here by the place in which they live, by the experience of immigrate, and by the experience of, by this capacity to adapt to new things all the time in their lives or in different moments of their life. So in a way, the idea of Shifting Streams covered that moment of shifting that let's say the culture and the place where they used to live for these other environment, this other context. So in a way, they were shifting this, as I was saying on the statement, the warm waters of the Caribbean were changed for the quiet waters of the Hudson River. And in that way, it's also an idea of resilience in the life of these artists that I want to.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Megan. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your insights, and thank you for putting together this exhibition. It is great that when this artists that you have known some of them for many years already, that now bringing them together, you bring in visibility to a phenomenon. You bring in visibility to a community of creative minds that coincides or settle in New Jersey, and that definitely deserve more visibility and more opportunities to show their work. Now I want to ask Yandy to start with Nápoles and Yandy, and this is the same question for both of them. So I would like to hear about the works that you are presenting in this exhibition. What are you presenting in this show, and what is the role or the place of those works within the context of your practice, within the context of other productions that you have made, or your interest as artists?
Start first. So I start.
You first, Yandy first.
Yeah, the work. First of all, thank you guys. Thank you, Viviana and Anelys and Megan. It's a pleasure to be working with you again. So the work I'm presenting in this show, it's part of a series that I did in 2016 about the ex-political prisoners that live in the area, in this northern part of the country. Everybody thinks of when you think of the political prisoners from Cuba, the ex-political prisoners from Cuba, people tend to think only of Miami. And there is also the second biggest Cuban community in the United States, and the second one outside of Miami, worldwide, it is here in the Hudson County, especially in Union City and West New York, the area I live. So when I arrived here, I met lots of these people because I come from a family of political prisoners. So I had a previous contact with them, and I knew about some of them, like the case of Jorge Valls, for example, an eminent political prisoner and poet from Cuba. And I always wanted to document to make a photo documentary of this phenomenon, these people living here now, adapting to a new context after getting out of prison for some of them 20 years in jail, some of them 38 years in jail. So so I started documenting them, and that's part of the series that you see in the exhibition, that you can see in the exhibition. And that it is accompanied, it's a bigger work that is accompanied by essays and an investigation. So I think that's an essential part of the Cuban community in this area. And it goes very well with this exhibition, not only because I'm Cuban, but and a Cuban exile living in this area, but also because the work is related to the history of the arrival and the community itself here, the Cuban community here in the Hudson River. I'm not sure I remember the rest of the question, but can you repeat it for me, if you may?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think you responded part of it already, but I wanted to know a little bit more. So I understand for looking at your practice, that series is very important in the context of your practice, of your interest. What's the place of that series in the context of your whole practice? How interacts, or how that series inform other pieces or other interests that you have as an artist?
It is very important because I'm an artist interested in political matters, displacement, immigration. So those are the topics that I always go back to. My whole career as an artist has been marked by that trend, by those type of topics. And of course, this is in the context of the Cuban politics.
Mm-hmm.
It has been a story that has not been told before. Not the way I did it. I think there are documentaries, books, but from the artistic point of view, I think this is this is pretty new.
Yes.
The work I have been doing, and you see, Cuba is a country that has a long photographic tradition, and the revolution, for example, was a generator of incredible photographic material.
Mm-hmm.
So one part of the story is being told in Cuba is the story of the people who triumphed, who got to power, and they told their story in a Hollywood-esque manner, right? So you see the triumphalist guerrilleros coming into Havana, and the beautiful portraits of Fidel and Che Guevara by Corda. So there is an epic photography that comes from Cuba. I wanted to complete that that other face of Cuba that was not portrayed before. So I wanted to portray the people who lost, the people that went to Yale, the people that never got a chance to tell their own personal stories. And I think that's my contribution.
That's great. Thank you, Jandy. That's fantastic, and it's so good. I know that we were trying to share some of the images. I'm sure that the public will be, will enjoy to see some of those images. And if we don't get to do that now, we can not share them now because we were having some technical issues with that. We invite everyone to visit the show if you have not done so already, to see some of those pieces, and also to visit your website to see more of that, because it's very interesting. And I love when you mentioned
I think it is freezing. Happen.
So it seems that Anelys has an issue with her audio. So thank you, Jandy. I think we can continue with Napolis, answering the same question. So I'm talking a little bit about the work that you have in the exhibition, and how the work fits in the whole context of your practice.
Hey, Thank you, Mekem, for introducing me to this conversation, this talk, and thanks to Viviana and Anelys too. I think about this exhibition, this show, for me was like a great surprise, because even when you choose when you choose my this work, the fighter or fighters, to exhibit, it was a great coincidence in this work and what had happened in my life, because like you said, I already moved 2 years ago to that area. So in that moment, I came from other backgrounds, I was developing a kind of series and related to this big painting, but I didn't title it like the fighter of fighters. I was involved in all the kind of series we call fragments and lovers. So, but at the end of that series, I start to introduce the fighter. So, because my life started to change, and whenever I here to United States, I made these big paintings, and luckily you choose one of them, and yes, basically it was a great surprise for me, because this work, this painting represents part of my latest works that I developed here in the United States. So what include many bodies, many situations I had in that moment, difficult things, and also the fighter is like myself, I like to, my words basically part of my biography. So I like to represent, I like to describe in a metaphoric way what's happening around me, what happened in my life, or my experience, the experience I'm living. Also, kind of visceral, I like to represent kind of visceral way where everyone is close to me, but no violence at all, no silence at all, no death at all, because many people who see my work say, hey, what happened with this figure who represented death? Or what happened with this other who had like a glove, boxing gloves? But why this kind of violence? What happened? I said, no, it's just what I'm living, but in a metaphoric way, because I feel myself like a fighter, and I'm fighting against many difficulties around me. So as a migrant, for example, when I like to be the second one, because it's curious, because Gandhi have the same situation like me. So like me, because I came from a family with political problems, with prisoners too. So my grandparent, and part of this family, like my grandparent too, and they were prisoners too, that in several years. So, but for me, it's not the same. I take this like I express this, but in different ways, So I think this kind of condition follow us all the time, because it's like that. It's part of our history, a part of our family tree, right? So, but in my case, I like to express that when I'm during my displacement. I mean, I continue moving. I kind of my migration for me never stopped, because I was moving around Europe all the time, feeling this kind of rare sensation. You say, where is my house? Where is my place. I have to leave this, I have to leave that. So it's like a kind of transhuman, you know, transhuman condition. I never stop. So now I'm here. This kind of developing this kind of art, this kind of figure, but next year I don't know where I'm moving, you know. So for me, this is a long condition. I mean, it's my point of view. It's like I like to express that, but the political way for me is like that, you know. It's a kind of, it never stop for me.
It is great to hear you, Napoles, and to hear Yandy. Like Yandy was saying, like his interest more on the political ideas of displacement and other like particular issues about immigration and displacement, and being that sensation of being out of place. But how you take that into your practice, I see that is more about the struggles of the human condition, like how we experience our own lives and the situations that we face in our journey through the life. So thank you for sharing that. It's good. It's so good to see that you are in your studio. And although we're seeing like there's paintings in there's a painting by you in the exhibition, I see that you work in other mediums as well. So I see some sculptures, and it's so good to give us an insight into your studio. And I want to go back to Macon again with another question. Macon, is there any? I see that Jandy and also Napoles, they're sharing with us their the themes and the subjects that interested them, and I would like to know if they're in this notion of shifting the stream. If there's any specific themes or ideas, or is the exhibition divided by themes or by certain ideas that you want to highlight? And how do you see Yandy's work and Napoles' work fitting into those themes?
Sorry, I was muted. So
we're all getting used to this technology. It's been a few months already, but it's still trial.
yes. So Anelys, as I was saying at the beginning, this is a group of artists that has very different styles, languages, approaches to different subjects. So for me, it was a challenge to put together all this work and try to make something that makes some sort of sense when walking around the gallery and touring the gallery. So I realized there was a group of works dealing with the human figure, dealing with issues associated with the human psychology, relationship between individuals, the ideal of the self, the ideal of the portraits, and featuring specific stories about people. So I decided to start with that section of the exhibition. So when you get into the gallery, if you haven't seen the exhibition, for the people that are watching this panel, you can access the show after we finish our talk, and you realize what I'm explaining here. You will first find the work of William Perez and the work of Napoles Marti, and in both cases these are like large two-dimensional works dealing with that idea of the relationship between individuals, of love relationship and eroticism in the case of William Perez, and this kind of a struggles and cultural fights, metaphors for the human behavior in the case of Napoles Marti. And then the narratives continues with the work of Alain Pinos, which are sort of portraits of historical figures, and the way in which he connects that with reflections on the current economy or issues of our contemporary times. And then we have the work of Yandy that it's focusing on specific individuals within this story of the Cuban Americans exiles in the area of New Jersey, and that in a way also brings the whole context of this area where these artists are based into the exhibition. Then we have the work of Danae Vigoura, that is, these are paintings that are self-portraits, and this is these two paintings are part of a series she's creating during this period of the confinement due to COVID-19. So in a way, it's a reflection on the self, it's a reflection on the culture of selfies, and it's a moment in which the artist has shifted her practice from a type of art that was only text-based to this art that it's incorporating her own image. So it's a whole group of artworks that are, you know, researching on the idea of the individual, on the idea of a specific people, on the idea of the portraits of the self. And then there's a second, let's say, segment of the exhibition that it's more connected to the idea of spaces in a broad sense. Mm-hmm. And that section starts with the work of Javier Caso, which are also photographies, but they are based on photographies of domestic spaces. And here he is exploring the idea of private property and how how blurry are the lines, you know, the edge, the borders of these this concept of private property. We have the work of Douglas Argüelles, that in a way is a sort of a hinge between these type of artworks dedicated to the human figure or the self with the artworks of the space, because Douglas here is mixing the idea of the cultural space of the museum with the depiction of African masks. So there's a connection between both ideas. And then we have the second room of the gallery now dedicated only to the idea of spaces, where we have the work of Bani Fernandez, which is a section of landscape photography as well. And she's playing here with the idea of frame and the natural frame that the landscape is providing to itself and how that's changed with the time. We have the work of Valerino, Pedro Valerino in that case, which is a work that is actually dealing with the idea of the pictorial matter, the use of the pigments to recreate some new realities. And that's the case also of Sandra Cordero, that creates this collage where she's trying to recreate an imaginary realm. So this specific series that I'm showing in the exhibition has to do with the soil and subsoils of that universe that she recreates with her different series of these mega series called Planeta Sandra. And then we have the work of Jairo Alfonso that it's also exploring other spaces. But in this case, he's doing this sort of exploration into the devices that provides information, such as radios, TVs, video players. So he dismantled these pieces, these devices, and he creates drawings of these interiors, revealing a sort of a new landscape that comes from this technology that is no longer in use. And finally, we have the work of Kenny Arguiñao that goes again around the idea of the space, but the space of the self, the space of the dreams, with this abstract composition, these artworks, these paintings that are dealing with the idea of dreams. So in a way, that's a little bit of the tour around the gallery and how I try to create something that makes some sort of sense within the variety and richness of the different perspectives of the artists in the exhibition.
Thank you, Megan. That's a great tour, and it's so good to hear you speaking about, because I'm sure that when those who have joined us tonight and they will go back to see the exhibition, they will identify and see those dialogues that you are creating. Like it's all about that. It's not just, you know, it's not just looking at the piece in itself. It's not just looking at the practice of an artist in itself, but when you're bringing them to an exhibition, you're creating dialogues, you're creating conversations among the pieces, and so that's some of the things that I really enjoy when I go to an exhibition, like seeing the conversations that are not being talked with words, but are being talked with images, with different type of creative materials. And with that, I wanted to go back to Napolis and Jandy, and now I say Napolis and Jandy, so maybe Napolis wants to go first now. That I see that there is differences between their practices, like even if they both focus on the human, figures and bodies, as you were saying, they're in the same section in the show. In the case of Jandy is like describing, like talking about the experience of others. And in the case of Napoles, he's using those images, but he's saying he's talking about his own experience. So I see that there is difference, but there's one unifying, there could be other unifying things in their practice that we can think about it. But I see that there's that unifying element, at least that when it goes to they both being immigrants, like the experience that mark their practice, that inform their practice, that shapes their practice, we can say, in a certain way. So I want to ask them, to what extent have their individual practices being impacted by their experience of being an immigrant? And particularly, I know that I want them to talk about, to share with us their differences, there are different experiences, because I know their journeys to this to the side of the Hudson River has been different. So I want to share about that. Napoles?
Hey, yeah.
I know you kind of had like a longer journey to get here.
Okay. So, Anelys, I think in my case, when I about this, what you asked, how this was for me, I mean, how this works as a migrant. Yes, for me it's rare, because for me it was a kind of salvation. When I left Cuba many years ago, I thought, oh, maybe I don't want to sing about this anymore, about what is moving, what is left your homeland, and start a new life. It was super hard. So like, it was in a hand, but on the other hand, I started to think, to know other things, other kind of importance for my life, because I was super raw and I was super naked in Cuba. I was super thirsty about information, knowledge, and go to Europe in that time was like, oh my God, it was amazing. So I didn't suffer this kind, like, for example, many artists who come from Cuba to here directly, and the situation maybe is different, I don't know, but that because the political situation is super close. But when I left Cuba, it was in the other side of the world. So yes, I thought about museums, galleries, art, so I try to enjoy as much as possible all that new things in my life. But yes, I see this kind of feelings about as a migrant, oh, I have to move again, happened again when I moved to Denmark. So it was almost the same, but it in hand, I want to do it, because I start to believe in my displacement. I say, okay, I'm Cuban, but at the same time, I can get all the kind of nationality. I can. For me, the most important is to improve my knowledge, to enjoy everything in Europe. So I never thought about that. Just when I move, every time I move, I had to think about that. Hey, what happened? My condition is this, why? So, but nowadays I handle it much better. Even when I came to United States for the third time, I decided to stay longer, and I accepted very well, because I suffer just a little bit, that because this increase a lot of things, good feelings over my art. It's like every time I move, my art change. So it's like a good thing for when I create it. you know. So it's a kind of I don't know. That helped me a lot. So
you see it as an opportunity to
yeah,
to
yeah,
add
sure.
layers to your.
I'm a movie person, so as like I told before, I'm here right now. I can be in Africa tomorrow or in Australia. You know, who cares? Who knows? So you know, because I'm like that. I became that kind of person. If that helped me my art, if that made me feel better, yeah, of course. Yeah, for me it's like that. I don't want to suffer anymore about this or super, you know, be sad
About the
under this
condition of
situation.
being, about the condition of being an
Yeah,
immigrant. You see it as an
exactly.
opportunity.
Exactly, because when some Europeans move to here or Americans move from here to whatever other place, not all of them are suffering. Just they want to enjoy. They want to increase some new things in their life. So I learned how to do that. You know, that's the point. You know, I got enough sad moment in my life when I was in Cuba. So why should I continue suffering for this? No, I have to take all of this and put in my art and express what I'm, you know, part of my life there. So that's what I do. I feel
Thank
beautiful.
you. How has it been for you, Yandy? Can you share a little bit about your experience?
Yeah. So my experience as an immigrant, being near to a city founded and alive because of immigrants, like New York City. It's a, so what I want to say is I'm not alone. I'm surrounded by people like me. The experience of immigration, it's big. It's all around me. But I'm an artist obsessed with things that are about to end. So, and in that sense, photography for me has been a very good medium, because what I have found, you see, with respect to not only Cuba, but things happening in the immigrant community here, there are many things that are changing at a very rapid pace. And I want to document and take everything I can of those most beautiful moments that I think exist when a thing is about to disappear, to become a historical document and start living in another sphere, in an intellectual, untouchable experience, and not in a livable experience. So at that moment, I think that's a moment of beauty and aesthetically magnificent that I want always to document. And being an immigrant in a city of immigrants where things happen so fast and where the experience of people are changing constantly because of the very process of adaptation. And I'm just fascinated by that. I walk through my neighborhood and I love to see all types of people with all types of experiences, cultures. I like to see the Santa Barbara and the Virgen de la Caridad standing in the middle of a snowy day outside of a house. And that mix of snow and Creole
cultures
aesthetics and that mix, and at some point that's all going to change because people adapt really fast. That's something that this city has. People end up, even though they don't forget about their where they come from and their customs, it ends up
it transforms all the time.
transforming everything. So
That's great. It's very poetic what you're saying, Gandhi, and it's so, you know, like very fascinating to hear in you both how artists have that sensitivity to catch those things that are about, how you were saying, about to disappear, that are transforming, and you can capture it, you can like in a form of art, like you can save it in a way for the future generations. And it's being an immigrant, like you see through those eyes, you see through your lens, but your experience, Napoles experience, can be someone else's experience. And when we see the art, it's not just something that is individual, but it can the person can relate to some of your experiences, and also see the work and see it through its own experience as well. So it's so it opens up. It's one of the beautiful things about art is that it really opens up conversations and windows to knowledge and understanding as well. So we want to to start wrapping up our conversation, to leave some time for questions. But before we do that, I want to ask the three of you, in this particular context that we are living, like everybody now calls, the new normality or the new norm, and all this after the pandemic crisis. And it goes without question that we all miss being together, being in exhibitions, being in museums. But I wanted to hear from you, what are the challenges, that also the opportunities that you see that this new context is bringing up for you as artists and for Maken as curator? What do you see are the challenges and also opportunities of this new context that we're all living in? You want to go first, and then we go to Maken and Napoles, since you're there?
I just, for me, in the middle of all these crazy moments we are living, I came up with a series that is called Quarantine 40 Nights and 40 Days. It's being exhibited right now at the Museum of the Americas in Washington. And it's going to be traveling. It probably goes to Miami soon. So for me, it's been a very creative opportunity. It has stimulated, and it has also changed the way I think about images. And so one of the things, and I'll be as fast as I can telling this, what I used to like about photography, because I am a painter. My formation is the formation of a classical artist. I used to work in a studio isolated from the world, and that's the way most artists work. So photography took me out to the street to meet people, to make essays about these people, to investigate, interview them, etc. And I felt some type of liberation because I went out of the studio. I didn't depend on a place to make my work, but I went out to the world. The world became my studio. But then with the quarantine and this thing we are living now, I was forced to go back to the same set as before, to an environment very similar to the studio. And what I have done is I started approaching photography as a painter. Before I did the contrary, I approached painting as a photographer, and most of the time when I used to paint. But now I see photography through the eyes of a painter. And if you see the series that is on exhibition now online, you can see what.
Where can people see this series? Where you mentioned
in Art We Trust. In Art We Trust. Can I maybe write? Let me look for it, and I'll give you the.
Okay, you'll be back. And just let us know, when or where can we see more about that exhibition that is now.
If you go to the Museum of the Americas, Washington, D.C., They have it there, and you can. They have a link to the exhibition.
To the exhibition.
To the host of
That's
the
okay.
exhibition.
So good to know that. Thank you, Jandy. Napoles, what are the challenges and opportunities that this time has brought for you?
Well, Anelys, this situation, I mean, COVID-19 is, I think, it's a big challenge for everyone. So, in my case, that came in a really good moment because I was super focused in a new series before coming here, but I didn't find the name, I didn't find the title. So just I was wondering what to do, how I call this, how is the title. I had a feeling. So it was in Italy. So the name, after right here, after get with this involved in this situation with COVID, I called I finally found the title. It was Ghost Couple. You know, that came because when I visit New York, Manhattan, that area, all this area, everything was empty. The street empties, nobody outside. So I start to think about ghosts, monsters around, surrounding, inviting my area, or it was a kind of madness in that moment. So I absorbed this in a better way. You know, I use it to. If you see my works, the latest, everything in especially this year, on the Corona, all the figures I represent have like a ghost around, or kind of mix between death and ghost. For me, it was amazing. I'm an atelier person. I'm really also I have this academic formation
Right.
at Yandi, and for me it's super important be focused in my studio. It's the most important moment, you know. So I remember several times some people ask me, hey, what is art for you? You know, the typical question, what is art for you? How it's work? I said, I always answer, hey, art for me is this moment when the artist is creating the art in his studio. When you finish your work, you let it go, you know, and I don't know what happened with that work. You know, this moment, what I'm creating, is the most important for the artist, and in my opinion. So Corona was for me is at the beginning like the most important moment to be only focused in my work and create new several works.
It forced everybody to stay, to pause.
Exactly.
For a period of time, and for artists, I just can imagine that many, as Megan was sharing before, in the case of many of the artists, that like they started like serious or more introspective, that are looking to themselves. Thank you for sharing that. Megan, do you want to close with your comments on that question as well? How do you see that balance between challenges and opportunities?
Yes, so this is a very interesting question, because this is actually my first experience doing a virtual reality exhibition. So there were a lot of challenges with creating this sort of platform and working with this platform I didn't know about, and learning concepts and ways of working with the people behind the creation of this platform. That, by the way, I want to thank, because it was great working with the people behind Art Virtualism, which is the team that created this whole experience. And it was very weird not to be in the space with the art, hanging the works, watching the works and touching them directly, dealing with the artists in the space with the art hunters and so on. But I think it has been on the other hand, a very good experience, in the sense that a lot of people from different parts of the world have been able to enter the space of the Hostos gallery, walk around, watch the works, of course, one of the challenges that this entails is that people should be very focused. It actually, needs us to be more focused on what we are doing, because it's not the same. We are missing a lot that direct contact with the artworks, watching the textures and the colors, and just by ourselves, and doing that through a screen is one of these great challenges. But at the same time, as I was saying, we have more than 1,000 visitors on the opening night of this show. We have people visiting the Hostos Center gallery from Europe, from Cuba, from different parts of the world. So that's one of the things that are very good in this type of experience. One of the opportunity that these kind of platforms is opening for us. So Yandy and Nápoles have been talking about how these new situation have changed or have provided new ways of approaching the artistic creation in their cases. But as you see, that exhibition that Yandy is having right now with the series created during quarantine, it's also visible to you in Miami, or the people that it's in these in watching this panel, so everybody can join and everybody can experience the space, experience the show. And that's one of the opportunity that this type of thing, this type of platform is providing for us today.
Great to hear that, and I absolutely agree with that. There's so many challenges at different levels, and we're all very conscious about that. But it also, I think, it opens up opportunities. Open all this. The richness of the online platform is opening opportunities. Also making. I know that in your statement of the exhibition, one of your concerns of one of the things that you state in the statement is that there's not enough visibility for this community that it's based in New Jersey. In some part, just because they're also in New Jersey and not, in New York as well. And this platforms creates that, or could create and generate more visibility for only for this artists that are you included in this particular exhibition, but hopefully for many, many more of them. So I absolutely agree with your comments and on that, and would like to move forward now we have some questions. And I didn't ask Nápoles if there maybe Macon can mention that, as Yandy mentioned, other places where we can go see his work. Not sure if Nápoles wants to share before we go into the questions, if there's any other projects that you're working on, if there are any exhibitions that we should be looking, checking out, and please provide that information for us tonight.
Well, just that I think the last 2 or 3 months, I'm living here in Rhode Island. I mean, I moved to here, and right now I'm trying to develop a big project about carving wood. I mean, it's a kind of surprise even for me, because I like that kind of new things inside the sculptures, mediums. So I tried when I was in New Jersey studio. I tried to make a big sculptures, but it was impossible because I was sharing with other artists. So a sculpture that everybody knows is super messy, is super dirty. So, and the scales, if you want to make like a large piece, it's almost impossible. You need like a super high roof or something like that. So in these 2 months, I start to prepare this kind of project. I try to make like a huge sculptures by carving, totally wood, and I don't know what happened, what's coming. I don't know, because it's a kind of surprise even for me. But yes, it's kind of like that. I'm preparing my sketches right now to pass it there, and yes, and that's what I'm doing right now. And Also, I prepare some canvases, big canvases in large scale to continue this series about the ghost couple, and we'll see. I will
So
send you
I'm
that.
sure that I'm sure that many of us will keep an eye on your practice and be, following you and your website and other mediums to keep an eye on what you're doing, Nápoles. So I want to go and thank you for sharing that. We have several questions here. The first question goes to Macon, and we're gonna go over some of them. And Macon, the first question is about the intergenerational artist. That it seems that it reads like that. It seems that the exhibit brings together 12 intergenerational artists from different ages, different generations. If this is correct, how did this intergenerational combination enhance the exhibit and the expressions of each work? Macon?
Sorry, was mute again.
So tell us about that intergenerational dialogues and how that enhance the exhibit and the expressions of each work.
Yes, that's a good question, because actually part of the richness of this exhibition is actually the diversity that there is. We have let's say 3 generations of artists, and at the same time they are dealing with different issues. So I think they come they immigrate in different times in their life. They have very different experiences, so their background. Some of them haven't had studies, like they are self yeah, exactly. Some of they don't have any official or regular training as artists. Some other have been studying art all of their lives. So not only the generations, but also their backgrounds and their personal histories bring these richness and diversity to the exhibition. And of course, the idea of some of them dealing with photography, some others with painting or drawing, are on using different type of languages, more like figurative or abstract languages, that together with their background are the elements that makes of this exhibition an interesting experience.
Absolutely. We have another very interesting question here, and it's also for Macon, but maybe Jandy and Nápoles would like to chime in into this as well. And this question is asking if there is such a thing as Cuban art, American art, or so on. And so if it's not better to manage like a global art, like a global idea of art. And that question has also another part that says, are borders not an aggression? Therefore, countries are part of an aggression to the human race. So is that, how can we, deal with that notion of Cuban art or American art, or like identifying the art by their geographical origins, and how we can put that into our contemporary context?
Yeah, so that's a big question, Yeah. We can be talking
That's
about that the whole evening.
I know, that's a thesis right there.
Yeah. So I better go for global art. I don't think that there's such a thing as a Cuban art. So when I talked about these artists, for example, I want to say artists of Cuban origins, because in some way that provides some sort of platform and unify this selection. And in a way, this exhibition, I want it to be seen as the historical document, because this is a phenomenon that I'm highlighting in this area. And happens that they are all Cuban, artists from Cuban origins. But this is not something that it's even visible, like at first sight in their practice.
Yes.
But it's a phenomenon that it's happening, and probably in 2 years, it's much bigger, or probably in 2 years it has disappeared because people have been moving away, and we have this document of the history of what happened with this community that was there at a point. But in terms of Cuban art, I prefer to say there's no such thing as Cuban art, because then we start dealing with notions such as Cuban American art, Cuban art, and where that these borders are, where one thing ends and the other thing starts. So I would prefer to talk about art in general. I don't know if the artists want to give their opinion about it.
Oh, I think it's also a marketing thing. I mean, so that's why you see artists that don't live in Cuba and have a studio in Havana, or they say they have, because it's easier to sell themselves as Cuban artists than to sell their work as artists, period. Now, in the case of, Cuba and origins, it's a interesting thing, because what we know as Cuban culture, and we can talk about Cuban culture more comfortably than talk about Cuban art, maybe. What we know as Cuban culture was created in New York, was created in Madrid, in France. So our Cuban flag was made in New York City. Our greatest thinker and poet, and all of the good things combined, Jose Marti, lived much more years in New York than he lived in Cuba. So what is to be Cuban? Cuban art is there is art produced in Cuba. Even the Cuban artists, some of them have an international projection that is not, that cannot be Cuban only anymore. And yeah, I think it's mainly a marketing thing, like Latin American art.
It's very complex, and that question was brought up by Theo Freitas, who is informing us that he's a curator, and it's a very interesting question and very complex to respond. But I will say, and I agree with Macon that it should not be used to identify or to put Cuban art in a box, because there's boundaries that when a thing starts and where it finishes. But I'm also, and there's also the fear that when you erase all the differences or all the particularities, you may also you take the risk of making certain people invisible as well. So it goes as well. So it goes it has different layers of understanding. I agree that it should not be used to put things in a box, but one way or the other, your practice or your life, even if you are an artist or any other profession, is somehow informed by the places where you live in, where there is Cuba or it's any other name. So it's always informed in a way who you are and how do you experience life. So it's a very complex question. I would say that it would take, Macon took it in a way, and Jandy was adding another layer to that. So I think that starting to think about that question, it would take us to many specific realms and things that should be reconsidered, maybe even for the history of art.
Yeah, so it's a necessary label sometimes, because when you have someone studying the art that happens in this island of the Caribbean, you have to name it like Cuban art. You have to give it a sort of label to that.
You have to give it, maybe for the study, maybe for.
I think we're losing Anelys there. So Nápoles, do you want to add something?
Yeah.
In the meantime?
Yeah, exactly. It's like Jandy said, many artists did
United
that.
States. Nápoles, back. Okay.
Sorry. You can continue.
We lost you for a few seconds.
For a moment.
Yeah, go ahead, Anelys, finish what you were saying.
No, I was saying that that it's also, it takes us to another thing that I just thought too, that what we call global, from the position and the place that we are right now, it does not apply the same way for everybody in every place of the world. So that's also what is the notion of being global, and who's defining that, and for whom. So it has like different connotations that it will take us time to cover. We will be able to cover everything here, but thank you, Theophrastus, for bringing up that conversation that is necessary, and it's necessary and important to have, also within the context of the art history studies as well. So we have one more question to go. Oh,
I
now
think Napoles wanted to add something to that. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just I wanna add a little so that the thing is, like Yanni said, many artists like to keep in the mind, or in the mind of many people, many other people, like, hi, I have my studio in Havana, but this is not right at all, you know. So that is a big mistake. I think it doesn't make sense if you're living outside, if you are absorbing new cultures and new experience, and you are completely out. Is a mistake to call yourself, or to call other artists who have that situation, Cuban artists. I mean, we have that background. We grew up in Cuba. We were born in Cuba, but that condition don't make you, when you are out of Cuba, like an artist, Cuban artist, because you are absorbing, you are breathing, you know, new cultures. So what is the point to continue calling yourself Cuban artist? That's why I like more the idea of be like a global artist, you know, because you are sharing, or you are producing your art and in other contexts, you know, who are part of different cultures. It's not Cuban anymore. So I think it's like that, at least for me. And yes, I think, and I agree with you guys. So that's what I want to say.
Thank you for that. And we have a comment here from Marcos Dimas. Marcos Dimas recommends to see Taller Boricua, a political print shop in New York at the Museo del Barrio. And there is other recommendations for us to be checking and for the artists to be looking at. And we have one last question for Macon in this case. It says, knowing that people won't see, we kind of covered this already, but maybe Macon wants to close up with this. Again, it says, knowing that people won't see the show live, but mediated through a screen, how did you envision the dialogues between the works that normally are perceived when you are in the room, but you have to come up with a different way in a virtual tour? What were the challenges of curating an online show? And I will add, Macon, would you do it again?
Yeah. My mute. Again. So thank you for that question. Yeah, I think I could do it again, definitely. I had posed many challenges to work with this non-conventional platform of doing a virtual show. Of doing an exhibition. And the question was about the dialogues between the artworks, right? So basically, when we were thinking about this virtual experience, the idea was to provide something very similar to the actual tour of the space of the Hostos gallery. So when you enter, you find the same desk, the same windows, the same lighting, even in the space. So that was one of the things. It was difficult to create the whole lighting, the whole atmosphere. So the tour, the way in which you can visit the exhibition, it's very similar to the way in which you would do it in the actual space of the gallery. So the dialogues that I created between the artworks that I explained before, how they connect to each other in terms of topics or in terms of context, in a way we're very much inspired by the actual space of traveling in a gallery. So it's basically, we want to provide a very similar experience to being in the space of the gallery. I even have a friend who asked me, but is the gallery never open? Can I visit someday, even on weekends? And I'm like, the artworks are not there. They were never hung in the space. Everything was done virtually, because he walked around with a visual platform and he feel like he was in the actual space of the gallery. So for this type of experience, we kind of follow the same idea of the physical.
You can even turn around and look,
you can turn around, you can walk from artwork to artwork, or you can go back and check the other artwork. You have the labels and the information on one side of the work, so you can read the whole concept of the work. You can read the caption, title, and so on. You can make zoom. So in a way, it was something that was very close to the actual experience of being there. I think we lost Anelys.
That you will do it again. You're back. We lost you for a moment.
Yeah.
That is so good. So we look forward to the next exhibition. Thank you, Macon, for delivering such a thoughtful and well done exhibition. And until when it's going to be up online for people to see it? Can you confirm that?
Yeah, it's going to be available until December 15. We are going to do some sort of closing event that we are preparing now. So we'll be sharing the details. We will be sharing the details on the website of the Hostos Center, and also on the virtual platforms and the social media of the Hostos Center and the Bronx Center on the Arts as well.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Anelys. This in a way, this exhibition is about resilience, and the idea of shifting streams is about that too, because we have also we have to face this way of shifting the idea of the concept of this exhibition. We want to bring visibility to this group of artists, so we are also asking the people to shift their mental streams and
absolutely. It's a great metaphor. It's a great metaphor that we should take with us tonight, and keep thinking about other possibilities to bring visibility to people every time we can. Thank you again to everybody who have joined tonight. Stay tuned for the closing event, and please visit the exhibition if you have not done so already. And thank you to the Hostos Center for the Arts and Culture, and to the Bronx Council for the Arts, and to everybody who joined this panel tonight. Thank you. And with that, we finish.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Anelys. Gracias.
Thank you, Anelys. Yeah, that's right. And,